Welcome back to Morning Break. In this week's Family Time segment, we are so excited to have Nevada Moms co-founder Casey Queen back with us today. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me again today.
And I think this one's going to be really an important topic to talk about. We are talking about mommy identity. Now, I am not a mom, so I do not even pretend to claim to know what you guys go through. But I think this is an important topic that women in general will also relate to. When you're wrapped around a certain title or role that you have, it can be very all-consuming, especially the role of mom. So when you hear mommy identity, Casey, kind of tell me what that comes to mind for you.
Yeah, so when I think about mom identity, I obviously, like, you identify as a mom. And I think that, you know, there's this transition period where you go from not being a mother to all of a sudden that's your role, that's your title. I'm often introduced as, oh, I'm Connor's mom, I'm Brenda's mom, and that's kind of like, oh, that's who I am now, I'm a mom.
Yes.
So when I think of like mom identity, that's just like that transition period where you go from not being a mom to motherhood and kind of like wrapping yourself up in that.
Yeah, and in wrapping yourself around that, I mean, your whole life kind of becomes centered around your kids, which is wonderful. We all know that being a mother is a rewarding and joyful experience, but it can also be a lot. And when you really take on mommy identity as your sole identity, that's when it can start to feel kind of maybe a little burdensome.
Absolutely, and it can be really hard because again, it's like this transition, and people go through like different transitions. Like obviously you graduate college, or there's just all these different seasons of life, and then all of a sudden you are in the season of motherhood where you go from not being a mom, where, you know, before I became a mother, I had more freedom to do the things I wanted to do. I wasn't relying on other people, or people weren't relying on me. And now I'm a mother, and often I place everybody else's needs in front of myself. And often, you know, my hopes or my wishes or ideas kind of get put on the back burner. And that's okay. It's okay to do that, but it's kind of like this magical juggling act. And I think sometimes moms can get lost just in that identity as a mom, and you kind of just put yourself on this back burner and you kind of never pick it back up.
Yeah, and I think that's actually applicable to all women. You know, as I'm listening to you talk, you know, as I said, I'm not a mom, but women, I think, often identify themselves in relationship to other people.
Yes.
You know, I am somebody's wife, I am somebody's daughter, I am somebody's friend.
Yeah.
And yet then it's like, okay, when I stand on my own, who am I? And it can be really hard to define that when something like being a mom has been your identity for all-encompassing, whether it's new or it's something that you've been for maybe 20, 30 years, and your kids are out of the nest and they're like, oh.
And then you're an empty nester and you're like, who am I? I've been a mom for 30 years now, who am I now? So I think it's really important to kind of maybe figure that out a little bit sooner, so then, you know, when your kids are all grown, you kind of have a self-identity already established, so you're not having that extreme empty nester reaction.
Yeah, exactly. And you have so many great ways that we can rediscover our identity outside of being a mom and stuff. And it can be as simple as a new hobby or even just hanging out with friends. What other things do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like to rediscover, you have to kind of look at yourself and think, who am I? What did I enjoy before I had kids? How can I kind of incorporate that into my life now? So I think about, you know, the simplest thing you can do to kind of rediscover is like get dressed for the day, right? Because I think as moms, we kind of get in like these routines of just throwing yoga pants on and putting our hair in a bun, but just kind of getting yourself ready, taking extra time for yourself to kind of just feel more prepared for the day can really be really refreshing, and kind of just, I don't know, you kind of just are ready for the day, so you're feeling more energized. So, you know, getting dressed for the day, rediscovering, you know, some hobbies that you enjoy and that you can kind of incorporate into your life. Getting creative with your friendships, because it's not as easy just to go grab drinks after work or anything like that. So maybe you are, you know, you have friends who also have kids, so you guys are having play dates together, or you're going on a walk through, you know, the marina together, things like that. I think it takes creativity, but it's definitely like possible and doable.
Yeah, and of course too that, you know, no one's an island and stuff, so there's always ways that your partner can help you too. And maybe that important of, hey, asking your husband or your spouse to be like, hey, can you take the kids? I need some alone time. That can also be beneficial, right?
Absolutely. I mean, your partner, you have to be a team, right?
Yes.
And I think that it's really, I mean, from my experience, my husband didn't have as much of this identity time as I did, and I would almost get jealous when he was like enjoying his hobby. Like he would go golfing and I was almost like jealous because I didn't remember what my hobby was. And so I had this moment, you know, when after having 3 kids where I was like, oh, like, who am I, and who do I want to be? And so I was like, I
Yeah.
can't be upset that my husband is still enjoying these things. I need to enjoy them too. So yeah, having like that
Yeah.
conversation of, hey babe, I gotta reinvest some time in myself. How can we do this? Does that mean you take the kids for a half day on a Saturday while I can go do something, or you help with bedtime so I can go take a bath, like things like that, just being super creative. And obviously also investing time into your marriage, because I think
that's
when
so
you're
true.
married, so much time and attention gets devoted to your kids that you kind of just become like parents, and you have to remember that you're married together too, right? So kind of finding that identity of that as well.
Yeah, and I think we could talk about that and like rediscovering your identity as a couple is a whole nother topic. And so I appreciate your transparency, Casey. I mean, I seriously think that this is such an important topic, whether you are a new mom, an older mom, a mom to be, or not a mom at all, and you are having some kind of identity crisis of your own. Rediscovering who you are is so important, because when you love yourself and you appreciate yourself, you can appreciate everyone around you.
Absolutely, and your kids see that too, and they see that if you are taking time for yourself, that you're just going to be that really great role model for them, versus if they only see you being a mom. Like, being a mom is amazing. It's the best job I've ever had. But I think that when your kids see you doing other things too, they just kind of learn. Like, you're their biggest role model in life, and we're kind of teaching them how to do life. And when they see you doing other things, that's like the best example.
Exactly, because you want your kids to thrive, and so you've got to set the example.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, thank you so much for being here. These family time segments are one of my favorite conversations that we ever get to have on this show.
Thanks,
so I
me
appreciate
too.
your time being here.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back after this quick break.